welcome back to a new video. Today we're going to be doing What If Deku Had the Blacklight Virus Part 1. Now this is going to take a little bit of inspiration from a different source. There's this MHA story texter YouTuber that I watched, and he did one of these, and I'm going to use a similar timeline to his for this. But mine's gonna be just different enough. Also, his name is, I think, Rodrone. I don't know. I mean, I do know, but yeah. I think I said it right. He does he's done really funny MHA texting story stuff. It's really interesting. Anyway. So, where we're going to start this off is, when Inko Midoriya is when Izuku is a child. Now, Inko's walking home, and she walks past this man. Now, this man is Alex Mercer. That's right, the Mercer virus man himself. Although, this Mercer had actually managed to kill and absorb, James. No. Yeah. No. Yeah, okay. Sorry. So, he was extremely hungry, and he was extremely hungry. Also, James' personality rubbed off, got infused with Alex's personality, creating this new Alex. Now, this Alex kind of acts a little bit like James, just a little bit. Anyway, so Inko offers him food, Inko's like, hey, do you want to come, stay over at my house until you can get on your feet, and then, etc., etc. Izuku meets Alex, and Alex is like, this child I must protect. This tiny human must protect. So, time skip, it's been a few years, he's found himself a place to live, but, he still has ties to the Midoriyas. So, Midoriya one day gets hit by a car. He has a chance, he's probably going to die. So, Alex, after hearing about it, immediately runs over. He sees Midoriya in a coma-like state, he also sees Inko crying, and he's like, nope, not gonna let this happen. This kid isn't dying on my watch. He starts transmitting large amounts of biomass and the Blacklight virus into Izuku. So, his vitals start going crazy before starting to stabilize, and then, Alex takes his arms away from Izuku. I'm gonna say Midoriya's arm was very broken, and it just, Midoriya clenched his fist, and the cast that it was in completely shattered, and he got up, and he was like, oh, I feel weird. Oh, I feel like my organs just got turned inside out and right side back in. He's like, glad to see you're okay, kid. Uncle Alex, what did you do? Nah, Uncle James. Because, Alex said his name was James. Nah, just Alex. Uncle Alex, what did you do? I gave you a copy of my quirk. To put it bluntly, my quirk is my quirk is called bioweapon. Basically, anything that's any meat suit, anything that's made of meat and has a heartbeat, or doesn't, I can turn it into biomass, then I can use them as weapons. You know, etc., etc., etc. He explains the blacklight virus as a quirk to Izuku after he asks Ingo to leave, and she does. So, time skip. Midoriya now knows how to use the blacklight virus. Also, Midoriya has a very odd ability. He can absorb non-biomass materials, inanimate objects, if you will. He can also absorb, grass, plants, trees, this, that, and the other thing. Now, you may be wondering, how come he's able to absorb how is he able to absorb plants and not inanimate objects? And what happened to the Mercer infection in New York? Well, to put it bluntly, after Alex absorbed James, he realized, like, oh crap, I'm screwed up big time. So he forced all the infection into, underground. So it's gonna be like the How to Train Your... What if Deku was the alpha of all dragons, what if? Where it's like all of the creatures that are infected live underground, and so does the infection. Or the blacklight virus. Also, Izuku, he has the alpha genome. Meaning, he can just be like... And, like, giant monsters and tendrils and crap will jump out of the ground. Nans is OP. He can also absorb biomass from the ground. And also, he can tell what, he does know there's a limit to how much he can absorb. Because instead of, after he was let out of the hospital, instead of just, teaching him slowly, Alex just plugged his fingers into the back of Izuku's head and just transmitted all the information. And then Izuku's body adapted to the information because of the blacklight virus. I'm not going to explain it any other way. So the way Midoriya can tell whether or not he is at maximum biome, he can just feel it, but he can also tell by, the color of his eye, the color and the brightness of his eyes. Because after he hits a certain level of biomass, his eyes will turn red and glow. Meaning he's able to do, like, the Tendril Devastator, this, that, and the other thing. Now, again, when Midoriya, had finally taken care... No, wait, where am I going with this? Okay, let me regather my thoughts. Okay, when Midoriya got into the entrance exam part of UA, when he got to the front and he just blasted out, because he didn't trip or anything like that, every time he would grab one of the 0-pointers, he would just absorb it. Also, by doing this, he's gaining more mass. Now, he can use this as biomass, or just to alter his things. Also, now this is going to be my own thing. This is really cool that I thought of. So, You know how in the games, the amount of biomass you have absorbed doesn't really mess with your abilities? Well, Midoriya has a very special mutation. Basically, the more biomass he has in his body, you know, the more mass is in his muscle mass ability, where, he just covers his arm, his arms change, and his hammer fists, they weigh more. Also, his claws are sharper, his whip fist, it has a longer range, and is just relatively stronger, and he can make blades pop out of it. His armor is stronger, he can alter it to where, it has a lighter variant where there's less armor, but he moves faster and he's a lot stronger. And another variant where he's still strong, but, he's a bit slower. And he has a few other abilities. Like, he has the ability to make, projectiles fire out of his arms and crap. Change his arm into a chainsaw. He can also use multiple tendrils to restrain. He can make a bunch of scary. He can even make a freaking buzzsaw gun, pretty much. It's crazy. It's crazy. Anyway. So when the zero pointer shows up, he's like, oh yeah, here we go. He runs over to the zero pointer. And he stops it before it crashes. You know what? You can decide. Who's the ship in this one? Tell me in the comments, please. And, he's like, you better run! She is like, yeah! Right as he starts absorbing, the zero pointer. And Alex is in the room. He's like, man, that kid's crazy. Then again, his quirk is different than mine. Because he did get a job as a mercenary hero, pretty much. And everyone's like, well, what do you mean? I gave him his quirk and my quirk are pretty much the same. Although his is a mutated version. I gave him his quirk because he was about, he explains how he was about to die. He gave him his quirk. And how it mutated. To where he's able to do stuff that not even he's able to do. I don't know. And then, hundreds of tendrils start jumping out of Izuku's body. With the metal he stole from the other robots. Make, claws. I don't know how to describe it. That jab into the zero pointer. And then start eating away at the zero pointer. After a good, 2 or 3 minutes, it's completely gone. He's like, ugh. Jeez. That was a big meal. Ugh. He picks up a piece of metal that fell off one of the other one of the other monsters. Not monsters, robots. He looks at it and he sees his eyes are just red colored. They're not glowing yet. And he's like, okay, I feel almost full, but apparently I can still hold more, so that's something. Also, he can absorb quirks, too. Yeah. If he eats a Nomu, he'd be able to take its quirk. And then, I'm just gonna jump straight into the USJ, where, Midoriya's like, I got an idea. So, also, he can hold the biomass inside of his body really easy. And, breakfast only gives him like the tiniest bit of biomass. You know, eating only gives him a tiny bit of biomass, like an almost insignificant amount. Like he has to consume something really big to, you know, actually start charging his biomass. You know, so you know, he still hasn't released all the biomass, which means he's about, how much, okay, so you guys can do the math for me. He got he got 27, not 27, like 78 not hero, but villain points, okay? You can divide that up evenly into each one of the robots. If you could do this for me, someone in the comments. Divide that up evenly into each one of the 3 robots, and then how much each one of them weighs. Add that together with a 0-pointer's weight, and that's how much he weighs. But his body, you know, is able to make it to where, you know, he can walk normally. And he can do it, you know, so well that, you know, he's able to just walk around normally without making craters with every step. So when he gets sent into the water, he immediately sinks to the bottom, and he's like, okay, well, gills. You know, then the blacklight virus gives him gills, and he's like, okay. You know, muscle. And, you know, and he jumps up, creating like a reverse whirlpool that pushes, you know, that sucks all the villains downward. You know, and then he lands on the boat, grabs Suyu. Also, Mineta got kicked out because we don't like Mineta here. Asui. He grabs Asui or Suyu, whatever you want to call her. You know, and he jumps over to the shallow zone. You know, he sees Aizawa about to get wrecked. And then, you know, Shigaraki runs over, tries to disintegrate Sue. You know, Midoriya punches him, but ends up hitting the Nomu. But his fist goes through the Nomu and, like, hits Shigaraki. You know, he dislocates his jaw and cracks his skull, but it sends him flying. And then, Kurogiri's like, nope, we gotta dip. You know, he grabs Shigaraki, they dip. You know, Midoriya rips his hand out of the Nomu. You know, the Nomu starts regenerating. He's like, oh, that could be a useful quirk. You know, he armors up. But, you know, when he's in armor mode, he can't speak because he doesn't have vocal cords. For reasons. Nah, I'm just playing. The armor's just really good, really insulated. So, you know, he grabs the Nomu, they start fighting. Midoriya clearly has the advantage because, you know, he used muscle mass, you know, the arm thing. You know, he started wailing on the 0-pointer. Not the 0-pointer, dang it. The, Nomu, you know. And he does, you know, he switched to Hammer Fist and does a Hammer Fist takedown. It absorbs the 0-pointer. You know, and this is enough to send him in a biomass overload. You know, and a bunch of villains are still standing, but he, you know, before actually engaging the Nomu, he told Sue to get Aizawa out of there. So he does a bio explosion. Basically, a bunch of biomass tendrils just shoot out in every direction. And they go pretty far. They almost reach the top of the stairs. So every villain was hit by these. You know, some of them managed to get out of the way and dodge them, but the ones that were hit, you know, they immediately just kind of died, and then they started they started changing. You know, they started changing into hunters, brawlers, Goliaths. Not Goliaths, but what are those ones called that have really big arms? You know, the one Heller gets his shield from. You know the one. I don't remember what they're called, but you know, the bigger ones turn into those. You know, the medium ones turn into brawlers, and the smaller ones turn into hunters. You know, and the ones that don't just get turned into, you know, they get sucked up. They branch off into another one of the villains, and if it's like a hunter, it evolves into a brawler. If it's a brawler, it evolves into one of the bigger guys. If it's one of the bigger guys, they just kind of, you know, take the biomass, become a little bit bigger. Because it takes a lot to turn into a Goliath. I mean, have you seen those freaking things? They're huge. Huge. That's a huge chicken nugget. But whatever. Anyway. So then all of the, and then all the ones that weren't hit are like, what the heck? You know, as all the tendrils start slowly retracting. You know, and once they get out of the ones that turned monster, you know, they fall down and then wake up. You know, and they start charging at the villains. Because, you know, Midoriya has a very photographic memory. So he's like, I gotta protect Class 1A, you know, 13, all of them. Gotta help them heal. Gotta fix up 13, you know, the whole shebang. And because he's an alpha blacklight user, I'm just gonna call him that from now on. You know, all the monsters will obey this thought. Protect Class 1A, you know, which is Momo, Mina, Ochako, all the rest. Kaminari, Tokoyami, you know, all of them. And heal 13, and then take out the rest of the villains. So that's what they do. You know, the bigger ones start going after the bigger villains that manage to, you know, dodge. You know, they all start taking out their respective villains. You know, some of the hunters get to the, you know, certain areas where Class 1A is still having trouble with their villains because, you know, Ida, at this point, Ida had just made it out a little, like 10, not even 10 minutes, like 5 minutes after Izuku, you know, after they got teleported. It was like a good 2 or 3 minutes after. So none of the people were going to arrive for a little while. You know, they were still having trouble. So, like, hunters and crap would occasionally, you know, a bunch of monsters would occasionally appear out of nowhere. You know, save class, you know, beat up all the villains, grab the Class 1A members, and then go back to the stairs. Now, Izuku is passed out in the center with a bunch of, like, hunters, brawlers, you know, the bigger guys protecting him. And if a villain tried to get close, they were immediately mauled to death. Like, they were completely screwed. They know the score. They let one of the alphas get killed. They're going to be facing the real... They let the alpha... Because they think, you know, this is the alpha's successor. You know, this is Alex's, like, son or prophet or something. You know. So they're like, we let this guy die, we're going to have to deal with Alex, and we don't want to do that. And the reason they know about the reason they know about Alex is because of the blacklight virus. Because everyone that is a part of the blacklight virus is, like, connected, like mushrooms. And don't worry about it. It's like a mycelium thing. It's really confusing. But anyway. So, you know, Midoriya starts to wake up. You know, and that's the cue for all of the monsters to be like, see ya, we got a dip. Hey, I'm making a video, leave. I'm making a video, leave. I'll do it later. Anyway, so Midoriya, you know, all of them, you know, the big guys start digging into the ground. You know, as, you know, as all of them start going down, you know, the hunters, no, the brawlers, because these brawlers have tendrils, you know, they start using their tendrils to cover up the holes that they made, the big guys made. You know, and when Midoriya woke up, he's like, ugh, what happened? You know, it's all class when I ran over to Midoriya, and they were like, what did you do? You know, I was like, what do you mean? You know, they tell him what happened. He's like, whoa, I didn't know I could do that. You know, he had de-armored. He's like, I didn't know I could do that. You know, as Alex shows up, he's like, Izuku, are you okay? He's like, yeah, I'm good, Uncle. Yeah, I'm good, Alex. You know, Izuku explains everything that happened. You know, da 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 da. Crap. So, you know, there's no time. I know I am just blitzing through this. There's no way. You know, one day Alex is like, okay, Izuku, I need to explain to you. Nah, wait. Okay, hold on. Let me retry. So Alex, you know, after the USG attack, walks up to, you know, the staff of UA, and he's like, okay, listen. My quirk isn't a quirk. It's a virus. I've seen, you know, and they're like, okay. Do you guys remember the Mercer pandemic that happened in America? All Might's like, yeah, I was called down to help with the monsters. I'm Alex Mercer. And All Might's like, how? You know, that's impossible. Mercer died way before I was even born. And yes, they still had problems even after Alex told all the monsters to dip. Because some of the monsters, you know, got a will of their own, popped back up. You know, spread the infection a little bit. It was a tinier version of what happened in game, but yeah, it was still pretty bad. Casualties in like the million, not even the millions, like hundreds of thousands, man. It was crazy. Anyway, he's like, well, I was put into cryo sleep, but the more important part is someone's re-spreading the infection. What? I woke up in a Gen Tech facility a couple years back. I've been doing a lot of research. Almost all of my contacts are dead. And because of my research, I found out that, you know, he presses a button and a bunch of pictures of facilities that have been completely demolished. Someone's trying to recreate the Mercer project. Please stay out. I'm making a video. Leave.
You say you want to know?
I will in a little bit. I apologize. Just go.
Oh, don't worry. I'm not burning there that much.
Okay, go. Now, you know, everyone's like, what do you mean they're recreating the Mercer project? They're trying to make another Mercer. I already did that with Midoriya, but he doesn't know it yet. I didn't mean to, but, you know, it kind of came up.
Oh, you guys, get me and you food in a bit.
Okay, go.
He's cooking gumbo and he says he's
Okay, go. We're trying to make a video. Oh, whatever. Anyway, so